What a day today. Look at that behind our shoulders here. 150th installment of Morse Code of Weather. And what better way than to have a fun experiment?
It's become a tradition,
So cool.
These big celebrations, doing some fun science experiments.
Yeah. Oh.
And this started back in February of 2022.
I was going to ask you that.
So
Wow,
we've
2 years
been
ago.
up to 150 episodes now.
Three.
Yep. It's been awesome doing all these different topics. I appreciate
cool. Yeah.
everyone's loyalty watching all of these Morse Codes of Weather. I've had a lot of fun doing them. And now let's have
Big
some
hit.
fun growing some snowflakes.
That's what we're doing, okay.
With salt. So
Okay.
I made these ahead of time out of pipe cleaners. There's
Okay.
3 different designs that I did.
Okay.
One
Oh,
for
you
each of us.
actually did these.
I did,
I'm
yeah.
impressed, Jacob.
Thank you. Breaking out some arts and crafts skills. So then
You're doing a great job.
I attached it to a wire
Yeah.
and then taped it to a pencil here. So
Okay.
we're going to put this in our containers in a little bit. We first need
Okay.
to put the Epsom salt into the hot water. So I put this water in the microwave
Yeah, it's nice and warm.
for a couple of minutes.
You want the entire
all of the
contents.
Epsom salts into the jar.
Okay.
We're not going to try to spill too much here.
ESM, do not have a coronary. This will be cleaned.
And then we're going to try to dissolve as much of it as possible with our spoon.
Okay, so take the spoon.
This might take
Our executive
several
studio
seconds.
manager is. Oh, come on, it's fine.
But it's pretty simple. We just have Epsom salts and hot water in here. And the reason we're using hot water is because the hot water can dissolve more of the Epsom
Faster.
salt than the
Sure.
cold water.
Okay, makes
But then we're going to
sense.
put the snowflake in a few seconds. And as that water cools eventually over time, it can't hold as much of the salt. So then the salt turns back to the solid and it will adhere to the snowflake and we'll get the salt to grow. It'll take about a week. So we're going to come back next Wednesday and show off our designs, see whose snowflake turned out the best.
Are you here next Wednesday? You got to step on this.
So let's fully submerge the
So
snowflake
fully
in there.
submerge it.
Yep.
And the pencil is just there to kind of keep the.
Just to hold it together. Yep.
Yeah.
So these are going to live in my office for the next week, and we'll see how they grow over time, how that salt adheres to the snowflake as we go over the next week.
Okay, coming up next. Oh, you're not done. Oh, okay. Never mind.
So to tie all of this together, I wanted to do a lot of snow science on this 150th Morse Code of Weather, since I'm a huge fan of snow. Favorite
are.
kind of weather. I'm an avid skier. So we're going to go over to the graphics and talk about some snow science and then come back and do a final experiment before this segment is over. So specifically focusing on mountain meteorology and how mountains impact snowfall. So upslope snow is really important in many regions across the country. When wind blows across or against those mountains or tall hills, it is forced to rise, and that's called orographic lift. As that moist air rises and cools, the water vapor condenses, resulting in clouds and sometimes heavy precipitation in the form of snow. This results in the windward side of the mountains, the side that the wind is blowing against, receiving more snow than the surrounding areas in the winter. So in mountainous regions of the Rockies or on the East Coast, the Appalachian Range up towards the Northeast, there can be areas in the valleys that don't see any precipitation, but the mountains are tall enough to wring out the water vapor that's in the air, and these high peaks can see a lot of snow, and that's a skier's dream when you have a lot of fresh snow on those mountain peaks. And we can really see that effect when you play out a storm in time with valley locations, sometimes not even getting any snow. It's all rain because you have that warm air closest to the ground, but those taller peaks can just get all snow. So we have to look at these snow levels and how those can change from several thousand feet up in the atmosphere to closer to the ground as a storm evolves. Very interesting in very mountainous regions of the country. So orographic lift, just that principle once again, moist warm air hitting the mountain and being forced to rise. As that air rises, it cools, condenses, causing moisture to form those clouds and then precipitation, and if it's cold enough, it'll be snow. And then on the leeward side of the mountains, as that colder air passes over the mountains, it sinks, the air dries and warms, and that's why the leeward side of mountains don't get as much precipitation. So focusing on a few spots across the country that see upslope snow. The northeastern United States is going to see it over the next couple of days. Here's northern Vermont and northern New Hampshire, where the high peaks are going to get a lot of snow, but the Champlain Valley is not going to get much at all. And focusing on the Jay Peak region, which I've skied before in far northern Vermont, one of the higher peaks in the state, you can get that upslope snow to form a lot of precipitation, and there's even some lake effect off of Lake Champlain. Now, the atmospheric river of the west coast can result in a lot of snow for the Sierra Nevada. So that's that giant band of water vapor coming into the Pacific coast. As that moisture moves inland, it's forced to go upwards over the mountains. It's cooling and condensing into snow in the high peaks, and depending on the duration, these atmospheric rivers can produce a lot of heavy snow in the high peaks of Northern California through Oregon and Washington, with all of that moisture coming into the Pacific coast. Even in central and western Montana, you can get some upslope events when the wind is out of the north or northeast. The Front Range and the foothills of the Rocky Mountains is famous for upslope snow when there's a Colorado low that forms and you get that easterly flow to butt up against the high mountain range in central and western Colorado. And then arguably the greatest snow on earth is in the Wasatch Mountains in Utah because of how dry and fluffy it is, referred to as cold smoke because of how airy it is when you ski over it. And you can have some lake effect snow in Utah as well over the Great Salt Lake. There can be lots of snow in these ski resorts east of Salt Lake City, even with storms that don't have a lot of moisture just because of how tall the peaks are and how drastic of an elevation change it is from the Salt Lake Valley up to the Wasatch Front. So the upslope can cause snow with wind blowing from a variety of directions with the Utah example. And it's all about these snow ratios, how much water content is in that snow. So we take 1 inch of water, that can form a variety of different amounts of snowfall depending on the atmospheric temperature profile. So in these tall peaks, and especially in the western United States with these famous ski resorts, we can get very light and fluffy snow, which is very enjoyable to ski on. Now I'm going to try to make some snow here quickly before we end our segment. I'm going to roll up my sleeves. We got some baking soda in this jar, and I've got a bunch of shaving cream. I'm going to shake this up, and this is a simple experiment with just shaving cream and baking soda.
I love it.
Making a little mess.
By the way, I want to just tell our producer here that we're going to drop the main weather. This is the weather segment. Okay, so for purpose of time, just calculate that in.
Just a little bit of baking soda and shaving cream, and we're forming some snow here. You can ball it up, you know, have some fun here with the kids, make a mess.
So that is shaving cream and baking soda, and you're
And you can make
changing
a
the
snowman.
consistency.
We can, yeah.
Huh.
Fun stuff. Even when there's not a lot of snow outside, have some fun in the living room.
Oh, I know a lot of people will appreciate this. Living room, I don't know, maybe outside. It's
You got to
nice
get the
enough be
ratios
outside.
right here, though,
Yeah.
too. I haven't tried this beforehand. This is the first time I'm trying it, so having some fun.
Well, that is kind of a
Yeah.
cool concept there. So,
And there's a lot of
It won't
different
melt.
fake snow recipes you can find online, too. But
Yeah.
this is just one of them, one of the easier ones.
Well, nice work.
Yeah, that is fun. And of course, shaving cream is always, you know, fun.
It's simple. It's
Yeah.
easy. Baking
Ingredients
soda.
around the house. We'll check back in on our crystal snowflakes next week.
1 week away.
Yep.
And with the bite marks on the pencils too, adds a little extra touch. I like that. I'm just kidding. We're not there. So that is really, really cool. Jacob, thank you, and congratulations again on your 150th installment of Morse Code of Weather.
Thank you very
I'd
much.
like to
Really
see you
happy.
get out of here without making a mess.
I'll try.
All right, we'll be right back.